Good evening from the KTN News Center on the 7th day of August 2014. Exactly 16 years after terrorists launched a bomb attack here in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, killing more than 200 others. Tonight, we'll have details on the compensation efforts or lack of them thereof.
Indeed, Ben. Tonight we look at that story as well as so many other stories, including a war of words that is now emerging between Jubilee and CORD leaders. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is William Sila. And of course, we begin with what is being perceived as supremacy battle or power play, if you may, between governors and senators. 4 county governors are facing punishment from the Senate. We're looking at Bomet, Kiambu, Kisumu, and Murang'a counties. Ben Kitili will tell you who these governors are, what they have done, and the punishment they're facing.
Indeed, Linda, the Senate has just dropped a bombshell on 4 county governors with the biggest punishment yet for refusal to honor summonses by the Senate. The Senate will withhold 20.1 billion shillings that was to be allocated to Bomet County, the county of Kiambu, Kisumu County, as well as Murang'a County for this financial year 2014-2015. Now, one of those to be punished for refusing to appear before the Senate is Murang'a Governor Mwangi Wairia. He is accused of snubbing the Senate 3 times when he was summoned to clarify on the Auditor General's queries on how he spent monies between January and September last year. Wairia is not going to get 4.7 billion shillings that was to go to Murang'a County for county government expenditure and salaries. Now, the second governor, none other than the chairman of the Governor's Council himself, Isaac Ruto, also accused of snubbing the Senate 3 times. The Bomet governor is not going to get 4.09 billion shillings allocated to the county of Bomet until he agrees to appear before the Senate Public Accounts Committee to explain his expenditure for last year. And the third marked for punishment is the county of Kiambu Governor William Kabogo. Senators say Kabogo has snubbed them 9 times after summonses to clarify on issues raised by the Auditor General. So Kabogo will not get his hands on 6.5 billion shillings earmarked for Kiambu County until he humbles himself before the senators and answers their questions. The fourth and final one is the governor of Kisumu, Jack Ranguma. He has allegedly ignored the Senate Public Accounts Committee 3 times. For that, he won't see the 4.9 billion shillings meant for Kisumu County until he shows up for grilling on last year's expenses. Now, these governors met their fate late this evening after Kakamega Senator Boni Khalwale moved a motion to deal with only the 4 governors instead of asking the National Assembly to delay the county revenue allocation bill. It was to release monies for all the 47 counties. And this, Linda, comes hot on the heels of another tussle between governors and senators after the passing of the County Government's Amendment Bill 2014, which vested executive powers on the Senate, on the senators for the county development boards.
We'll the governors are not taking it lightly, are
they? They are not happy about this.
Right, so let's see how this plays out in the coming days. This is the story we're following for you, and it forms the basis of a big question tonight on KTN Prime. We're asking you, do you support the Senate move to withhold funds for Kisumu, Kiambu, Murang'a, and Bomet? Send a short response to the number 22155. You can also tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Linda Ogutu, and at Ben_Kitili. Let us know what you think. We'd love to sample some of your views during this bulletin. Now let's take you to another face-off now. Homa Bay Senator Otieno Kajwang has given National Assembly Majority Leader Aden Duale a 3-day ultimatum to substantiate claims that Kajwang sold work permits to undeserving foreigners. But Duale has rubbished Kajwang's threat, telling him to carry his own cross when investigating agencies probe the Immigration Department over issuance of work permits and passports. KTN Samogina has the details.
Be able to use this. The tenures of past cabinet docket holders is the latest flashpoint in the contest between Jubilee and CORD Alliance. A showdown looms between Majority Leader Aden Duale and Homa Bay Senator Otieno Kajwang. Kajwang has handed Duale a 3-day ultimatum to substantiate claims that Kajwang, as Immigration Minister, was bribed to sell work permits and passports to foreigners, essentially allowing many undeserving foreigners access into the country.
He will face one of the biggest court battles he has ever faced in his life. And I've never sued anybody in my life. This time, I will go full hog.
Duale on Wednesday claimed Jubilee was in possession of a dossier pointing to grand corruption in the Immigration Department during Kajwang's time. The Majority Leader saying Kajwang might be prosecuted for illegally dishing out Kenyan documents to foreigners. Duale claimed the Immigration Department was next after the Lands Ministry and that over 500,000 identity cards, work permits and passports were issued irregularly to drug dealers, terrorists, foreign mercenaries and aliens. But in a rebuttal, Kajwang has no remorse for what he says was undertaking his ministerial mandate.
If you ask me how many citizenships I granted, I will tell you I don't know. There must be many. Because that was my job. So long as you apply and you qualify within the Constitution and within the law, I grant you. That's my job.
Kajwang joins Siaya Senator James Orengo in the line of fire, both drawn from the opposition code, whose former dockets are being challenged. Orengo's tenure at Lands Ministry has been discredited for the issuance of 500,000 acres of public land illegally to 22 private entities. The two now say the Jubilee administration has retreated into peddling propaganda and political witch hunt against the opposition to brand them as corrupt.
This is a political witch hunt. Because we have been here now for 1.5 years. If this government had any evidence, any hard evidence on any corrupt deed or whatever, I would now be in committee. I can tell you that. Because they don't like me. Because I don't like them either.
CORD claims Jubilee's latest affront on its leaders is a scare tactic over CORD's push for a referendum. But the trading of barbs only eclipses the underlying issues bedeviling the country than solve them. Samugina, KTN.
From politics now, and a mother in the county of Narok, hard pressed by poverty, attempted to sell her 2 youngest children.
It's painful. The mother of 8 children was going to sell her 3-year-old and 7-year-old sons before security officials got wind of her plans and set a trap for her. KTN's Edith Kimani has the story.
The innocence of 2 children about to be sold off by their own mother could not have been more evident at the Narok police station. 2 pairs of little feet dangling anxiously, unaware of their mother's resolve.
Nataka kuuza watoto wawili kwa shilingi 200 niende nijengee nyumba, rudi nyumbani nikae.
The mother of 8 says she has been living in dire poverty since her husband died, and with no means to support herself or her children, she reached the decision to trade in her little ones.
Si yani napeana watoto, yani ninataka niuze kwa furaha pana. Huwezi uza mtoto wako kwa raha.
Akumu claims she has previously attempted to seek help from her relatives who have allegedly turned her down. But police officers who posed as prospective buyers of the children say even destitution is no excuse for breaking the law.
The law will take its course in a different way, but we'll also look on the positive side on how we can be able to handle the case to the best interest of the children.
The unknowing children are now in the custody of the state, with the fate of their only custodian and provider yet to be determined. Edith Kimani, KTN.
What a heartbreaking story there. Well, the Traffic Police Commandant Charlton Mureithi has given a stern warning to traffic police officers taking bribes from motorists, saying a law is coming soon to punish both the giver and the take of bribes on Kenyan roads. He was speaking during a meeting that brought together the heads of traffic police from all the 47 counties.
I did, and we did discuss corruption as a challenge area in the department, and I have put officers on notice, and I am appealing to the public that should you catch any of my officers doing any corrupt practice, do not hesitate to report the person. Report even the giver, because now we want to go do away. Mwenye anapeana hongo na mwenye anachukua hongo. Because I can take care of my officers if I catch them. And we do it without being prompted all the time. But if you notice a citizen attempting to bribe their way out, having committed a traffic offense, please report them.
16 years ago today, terrorists executed a bomb attack that claimed over 200 lives on Kenyan soil. Almost 2 decades later, the question of compensation is yet to be settled. KTN's Wilkis Tanyabwa now brings us the report of families still struggling to rebuild their lives.
For 16 years, Teresia Karanja has faced the world from this wheelchair. She keeps her spirits up, but she has never forgotten the circumstances that saw her lose her mobility. Nairobi goes about its business, seemingly oblivious to the significance of this day. But those gathered in this little corner have never forgotten. For 16 years, they have faithfully commemorated the day when terrorists bombed the building that housed the American embassy in Nairobi, killing over 200 people and injuring over 4,000 others. And while the wounds have healed, the scars remain. Teresia Karanja was working at the Teachers Service Commission when the terrorists struck.
Around 10:45, to scare the first blast. I was near the window. Nikaangalia kwa dirisha. Nikaona watu wanaangalia this side. Rafiki yangu mwingine akajaribu kuniunua nikashindwa. Sasa mimi nikamwambia wewe enda tusikufe hapa wawili.
She was pulled out of the building and rushed to hospital. She would never walk again.
Maisha yangu imebadilika. Nilikuwa naweza kujifanyia kitu, sasa hivi siwezi nikajifanyia kitu. Though I'm still working, I have to depend on somebody to take me to work and back.
Irene Sai and her siblings lost their father in the attack. The two younger siblings cannot remember their father. He died before the last sibling was born.
I'm the only person who remembers my dad. You know, like, I remember him, at least the few memories. So my young brother, who's 16 years, usually asks, Daddy alikuwa anakaaje?
This year, as in other years, the question of compensation rearing its head once more.
Tulikuwa tunapatiwa school fees kwa sababu nilikuwa ninasomesha. Nilikuwa SI kwa group that is serious injuries na nilipatiwa 60,000 nikitoka hospitali kwa sababu hatuku tunajua ya kwamba kama tutalipiwa zilikuwa zimekwisha. Kwa hivyo mimi kutoka pale hakuna usaidizi mwingine nilipata.
The 16th anniversary comes in the wake of a landmark ruling by an American court. A group of Kenyan victims of the 1998 bombing were awarded over 600 million shillings each. But none of those assembled here was part of that suit.
Tunasoma kwa gazeti, pesa iko, hatujaipata. Inaenda wapi? Ni nani anapewa? Na kama wanapatiana na kriteria gani? Juu watu kama sisi maisha yetu ilibadilika kabisa.
We're just hoping that the compensation is real, at least inside most of us here, because a lot of people are really suffering.
Haita compensate huyo mtu, lakini itamsaidia at least a move on na life.
And so on this day they gather, they pray, they remember, and then they leave for home, ready to continue the conversation about compensation as the 17th year begins. Wilkistangabo, KTN.
Let's go to the U.S. now, where President Uhuru Kenyatta earlier this morning gave the strongest indication yet that Kenya will not be withdrawing its troops from Somalia anytime soon. A tough-talking president told Kenyans living in the U.S. that the troops would only pull out of Somalia when the government in Somalia was strong enough to secure the country. He was speaking in Washington, D.C. after the conclusion of the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit. Joe Ageo reports.
Having bombings in our cities, you will remember the embassy, the U.S. embassy bombing in Nairobi. Kenya was not in Somalia during all that time. You remember the scenario of the bombings at the hotel in Mombasa. We were not in Somalia. You remember the scenario of the aircraft that was almost blown out of the sky again in Mombasa. We were not in Somalia. So Kenya's entry into Somalia was not driven by any other thing than the fact that Kenya's economic interest, including the interests of those who we were hosting as refugees, was under threat. That is when Kenya said couldn't stand aside anymore. And we moved in with a singular aim of working together with our counterparts in Somalia to bring peace, to bring stability, because their instability was now becoming instability and lack of security for the people of Kenya.
Of course, our Joe Ageo attended that. Let's stay in the U.S. and try to answer some of the questions that are on several minds. Could the just concluded U.S.-Africa summit in Washington, D.C. be an attempt by President Barack Obama to counter the rising Chinese influence on the African continent? Chinese scholars and business community have been pushing Beijing to create a long-term strategy in Africa to pursue its political as well as economic goals in the continent. On the other hand, American businesses and government officials have been exerting pressure on Washington to act fast since they see China as a major threat to U.S. interests in Africa. Here's a look at the turf wars between China and the U.S. over Africa.
President Barack Obama hosted 40 African leaders in a historic U.S.-Africa summit. It is the first time a sitting U.S. president has invited all leaders from Africa, with the exceptions of Zimbabwe, Central African Republic, Eritrea, and Western Sahara. Topics discussed in Washington, D.C. included investing in Africa's future, peace and regional stability, and governing the next generation. The Obama administration splashed 1.2 trillion shillings worth of investment opportunities to Africa that will mainly cater for power expansion projects.
It's a matter of United States attempting to reframe how they engage Africa in light of the fact that they have a new competitor, of course, in the name of China.
It would appear Obama is giving more focus on Africa as he serves his last term. In July last year, while in Tanzania during an African tour, President Obama launched Power Africa. The initiative aims at supporting economic growth and development by increasing access to reliable, affordable, and sustainable power in Africa. In 2010, President Obama launched the Young African Leaders Initiative to support young African leaders as they work to spur growth, strengthen democratic governance, and enhance peace and security across the continent. The U.S.-Africa relations were ignited in 1998 by former President Bill Clinton when he paid a first visit by a sitting U.S. president to sub-Saharan Africa in 20 years. In 1999, the Clinton administration introduced the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, to create new economic opportunities by increasing African exports to the U.S. AGOA expires in September next year, and Kenya is among African states at the summit lobbying for its extension. In 2001, Clinton launched the Africa Education Initiative in an effort to strengthen basic education in Africa. In 2003, former President George W. Bush launched the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, a $15 billion program to address HIV and AIDS in Africa. In 2005, Bush introduced the President's Malaria Initiative. America's influence in Africa has also spread militarily. In 2007, the U.S. Department of Defense announced the creation of a new Africa Command, AFRICOM, to coordinate U.S. military and security interests throughout the continent, promote security partnerships in the region, and support humanitarian aid efforts.
It's long overdue that we move this relationship to the economic sphere, right, where we can reap benefits, and it can be almost a partnership.
Nonetheless, American investors are seeing China's growing influence in Africa as a threat to U.S. interests. China has won tenders to construct multi-billion shillings infrastructure projects such as roads, railways, and bridges, which have promoted intra-African trade. However, China is often criticized of exploiting Africa's natural resources than fostering development. China has also been accused of undermining democracy by continuing to invest in countries facing governance challenges.
If you look at China today, it has literally vetoed every other resolution in the UN Security Council that wants to restore good governance in this world.
Overall, China remains a small player in Africa than the United States. U.S. foreign direct investment in Africa is 2 to 3 times more than Chinese stock investment. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
From issues of whether east or west to western Kenya. Now, residents of a village in Lugari constituency of Kakamega County are concerned about the way elders there handle cases of incest and child molestation.
They say perpetrators get little more than a slap on the hand, despite increasing cases of fathers putting their young daughters in the family way. As KTN's Francis Ontomo reports, some of them now consider their area a cursed region.
Kishtukia watu wameniangukia. Walikuwa wamenishika midomo na migongo. Sasa sikuwajua.
The cutting revelations of Rosemary, not her real name. A young girl now turned mother. Kiliboti village in Lugari constituency. From afar all appears well, and apart from these impassable muddy roads, nothing will betray the serenity of this setting. But don't be mistaken, there is more than meets the eye.
Mdomo akaniweka kitambaa kwa mdomo. Nilisaidia haja yake. Alafu ndio mimi sasa nikaanza kupika nduru. Nilipika nduru lakini alikuwa ashaenda, amefunga mlango, ashaenda.
Shocking accounts of victims portraying a village jammed with all manner of sexual defilement, multiple allegations of incest, many fathers accused of turning on their own daughters, claims of abortion and senseless killing of babies.
Mama na baba walikuwa wametoka. Waliporudi huyo kijana alikuwa ametoroka. Niwaambia, lakini mimi kwa wenzangu nilitaka kuchinyonga, lakini yenye Mungu amekupatia uwezo kufanya nini? Ukatoa.
Na moja nilikuwa nimeenda kutengeneza nywele. Sasa benye nilikuwa najutia hakukuwa karibu na watu, ilikuwa kwa sana. Sasa nilishtukia mtu amenilalia. We
started this about 2 hours ago, and the count goes on and on here at Kiliboti, a village that has gained the tag of a den of defilement and incest. And shockingly, things happening right before the eyes of authorities. 14-year-old Pamela, not her real name, claims that her father pounced at a time when her mother was away. She conceived from the deal and she carried the baby to term, despite pressure from the community to have her abort the baby. And even today, she still guards her baby jealously from a society that view children born out of incest as social outcasts. Many such babies we learn have been killed and buried silently.
Wanaona ya kwamba anaharibu usawa wao wote. Utapata ya kwamba huyo mtoto, mfano kwenye walikuwa wako wakapatika wakawa pale, alikuwa anatoroka, anaenda pengine anamtorosha kwa kuhofia kumuua, wanampeleka kijiji kingine.
Sadly, the wheels of justice do not always spin full circle. The cases are instead settled by village elders who often make shocking decisions.
Sasa zingine tunakaa usiku, alafu wanachediliana, alafu wanalipa. Alafu wanapo upande wa malipo, wewe ukitaka kujaribu kufadilia, unapata yule mwenye alifanya hiyo kitendo ametoroka, ameenda.
The cases of incest and defilement are so many that most of them end up being settled out of court. That is, the cases are being settled in the villages, where the parties involved agree on some amount of money, ranging from 10,000 to 30,000, with either a sheep or a bull.
And in the scheme of things, it becomes a field day for traditional birth attendants. They allegedly aid abortions, especially in cases of incest.
Nilikuwa nashughulikia sana, walikuwa wa primary na secondary. Walikuwa wanakuja tu usiku, hawezi kuja jana. Wanakuja usiku na washughulikia wanaenda.
Authorities are now worried when things go wrong. Botched abortion cases and defilement are normally referred to Matete District Hospital.
We receive 11 clients from the communities, and we do post-abortal care. We refer those who need transfusion.
Tumepeleka mpaka kotini na zingine tunaendelea kuinvestigate ili tujue ukweli uko wapi.
This is Ontomwa, KTN, Kiliboti Village, Lugari.
The search for justice there, of course, those are very young lives messed up.
Yes, indeed. Tonight, we are reporting that the Senate will withhold some 20.1 billion Kenya shillings that was supposed to be allocated to 4 counties due to the respective governors' failure to honor summonses by the Senate. And on the big question, we are asking you, do you support the Senate move to withhold funds from the counties of Kisumu, Kiambu, Murang'a and Bomet?
Of course, you're already getting some feedback from you. At IE Motivate says senators release the funds right away, sort issues with governors later. Kenyan nchi ya ajabu.
Kipkoech Martin does not support. He says supremacy battles will kill the very good of devolution. Everyone wants part of the counties.
William Molo says, if it is because of the mismanagement in the named counties, I support.
And Jeff Jinakob on Twitter says the senators are right to withhold the cash. Kenyans need to know how their taxes are being used.
Well, those are your opinions on this latest development. Keep tweeting us. We'll keep sampling your views during this bulletin.
For now, we'll take a quick break, but don't go too far. We'll be back shortly with more. This is KTN Prime.
Stay with us.
And travel advisories hit revenues from phenomenal wildebeest migration.
You're watching KTN Prime.
Indeed. Now, every year from July to October, the greatest show on earth begins. Millions of animals, mostly wildebeests, migrate from the vast Serengeti plains to the Masai Mara. How do they know which way to go? That is for scientists to tell. But sadly this year, travel advisories have warned many not to come to Kenya, even for that phenomenon, mainly for security reasons. Take a look.
There is nothing else like this on earth. The wind ripples through the grass. The animals easily visible are the slow-moving elephants and zebra. A lone crocodile with its mouth wide open. Hippos, perhaps a family, afloat on the Mara River. Lions lie in the madded valley waiting in anticipation. Then it happens. A herd of wildebeest go down the riverbank. The migration continues. From July to October, many herds of thousands of wildebeest migrate from the Serengeti to the Mara. And for those who have seen it for the first time,
beyond expectation, it's beyond imagination.
In the past, thousands upon thousands of tourists descended on the Masai Mara to witness the migration. The Mara National Reserve alone generates an estimated 1.9 billion shillings each year. Tourism is at the core of Kenya's economy. So when in May 2014, the governments of Britain, the USA, Australia and France issued travel warnings to Kenya, the sector hit a major low. Come the migration season, there aren't as many visitors as usual. However, the investor and owner of a Mani Mara camp in Masai Mara saw some light at the end of the tunnel, and he went the extra mile to bring tourists to the Mara. Norbert Joy is a Norwegian citizen of Kenyan descent.
We believe in the market, we believe in the country. Insecurity is actually an international problem, not only a Kenyan problem.
This is Arndt and Ellen Lund, a Norwegian couple who are witnessing the migration for the very first time. Ideally, many tourists going by the warnings issued would be afraid of going to Kenya, but not this couple.
Incidents happening in London, there's incidents happening in the US. Why don't we stop going to the US? Why don't we stop going to London? So we thought that even if there are some incidents happening in Kenya, that's not more serious than what happens other places in the world.
By late October, when the first of the short rains are falling on the Serengeti plains, the wildebeest will start heading south again. There is neither start nor finish to the endless search for food and water. Tourists cannot be compared to the wildebeest, though they both have a desire to migrate to find that which they do not have. There is no such thing as a typical wildebeest migration. This dynamic process, just like the Kenyan tourism industry, defies prediction. No 2 years are ever quite the same. So will 2015 be like 2014 come the next migration? Maybe, maybe not. Dorcas Wangira, KTN.
This is Business. My name is Boni Tunya. Now, it has been 1 year since the country woke up to scenes of fire raising the arrivals terminal at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And in that 1 year, the airport has undergone a facelift that includes a new terminal, a significantly better passenger process, and better security. Adelaide Changol takes us through the year that has seen JKI rise from the ashes.
They say bad things happen in threes, and in the week between July 31st and 7th August 2013, the country discovered just how true this saying is. On August 1st, 2013, 350 people allegedly gained access to the heavily guarded Jomo Kenyatta International Airport and demolished 13 duty-free shops associated with businessman Kamlesh Patni. And on August 5th, 2013, JKI made news again after it ran out of fuel. And on August 7th, 2013, the country woke up to this. Images of the arrivals terminal engulfed in flames. It took over 5 hours to contain the fire, and for the second time in 3 days, JKI was closed down with hundreds of passengers left stranded once more. This series of mishaps galvanized the government into action. First order of business was to get the airport up and running. Domestic and cargo flights resumed later that day, while international flights resumed the next day after a temporary arrivals terminal was set up. And 1 year after the famous inferno, the airport is sporting a facelift. Terminal 1A partially opened its doors to passengers last month, featuring state-of-the-art security features and a significantly better process for passengers using the facility. Once Terminal 1A is fully online, the government will embark on a planned reorganization and redesign of the international departures in Unit 1B and 1C and the domestic departure and arrivals terminal in Unit 1D. The burnt-down international arrivals terminal will be demolished to pave way for a new one that will be constructed using the 500 million shilling insurance claim settlement. But the biggest part of the JKI expansion will be the Greenfield terminal, whose construction began in December 2013. With a raft of changes that have entrenched passenger safety and security, while increasing the handling capacity for the airport, JKI is putting what happened last year behind it and forging ahead with its goal of becoming a world-class airport. Adelaide Chongole, KTN Business.
Stay at the airport, and Kenya Airways is the latest firm to enter into the mobile telephony craze, and it's already advanced plans to launch the mobile operator arm. The airline in the fourth company angling for the lucrative mobile telephony market, but with special focus on the roaming business market as it looks to boost revenues from its airline business. The airline is, however, yet to get an approval from the Communication Authority of Kenya. But even before the national carrier received that approval, it has since signed a memorandum of understanding with the Airtel Kenya to deliver a MVNO service for the airline. Now, under the agreement, Airtel will provide network infrastructure services to Kenya Airways, meaning that the airline MVNO will provide cellular mobile services, including customer registration, SIM card issuance and billing, and customer care to end users without holding a spectrum license. This will come as a plus for the airline as it seeks to create efficiency and cut down on operational costs. MVNOs are expected to push up competition to the traditional players and hopefully bring down the cost of services, especially data and mobile money transfer. Telecom operator Safaricom is banking on its enterprise business arm to create a steady revenue stream, diversifying from just voice, SMS and data revenue. Safaricom today launched its M-Distributor service, an online solution for players in the fast-moving consumer goods business aimed at creating business efficiency. The service employs the operators and data mobile money transfer platforms as part of its strategy to grow the bottom line. KTN's Charles Kitonga has more.
When you see the official signing of this strategic partnership.
Last month, Safaricom unveiled a strategic partnership with the KCB Group as it sought to create business solutions for the small and medium enterprises. The platform, the two firms said, would help budding businesses run effectively and professionally through offering tools and financial access.
We'll be working with SMEs in their journey towards growth. So the launch today is merely a beginning of many engagement opportunities with SMEs.
But even before the dust settles, Safaricom's enterprise arm Safaricom Business, in partnership with mobile solutions developer Virtual City, has hit the ground running with M-Distributor. This is a mobile application targeting businesses in the fast-moving consumer goods sector. With the app, Safaricom hopes to enable businesses keep real-time track of sales transactions, deliveries, place orders and collect returns while channeling the money through M-Pesa.
I think this product also speaks very strongly to the vision that we have as an organization of advancing a world where cashless transactions drive this economy.
The application will be dependent on Safaricom's data space through which transaction information will be shared from salespeople to distributors, manufacturers and business headquarters. The telco's latest innovation seeks to leverage on the growing data subscriptions, which increased by 1.3% to reach 13.3 million subscriptions in the first 3 months of the year. Such innovations, driven by the company's strong presence in the data and mobile money market, will see it spread its wings further away from the subdued growth of voice and SMS offerings. Charles Gitonga, KTN Business.
And finally, the Capital Markets Authority of Kenya is set to take action against market intermediaries failing to make full disclosures to clients wishing to buy shares in the Nairobi Securities Exchange initial public offering. Now, in a circular seen by KTN Business sent to market intermediaries that include stockbrokers and investment banks. The CMA says that some participants have been issuing advisories to clients without stating their interest. In particular, the regulator wants intermediaries to reveal the extent of their shareholding in the NSE while stating their status as a market participant in what it calls a practice directive. The move is aimed at eliminating any conflict of interest in the IPO that closes next week.
Kakameg's Green Commandos will take on Pasenga of Obadea, while Kisumu Day will square it out with Katungi in the semi-finals of Airtel Rising Stars National Secondary School games tomorrow. Victor Ogale gives us all the highlights from day 3 of the championships.
Green Commandos from Kakamega High School beat Chemasi of Nakuru by 4-0 in their last Pool A match to finish the competition with 9 points. Kathunki, who were last year's losing finalists, handed Brother Buzang of Metropolitan their third straight defeat with a 2-0 victory to finish second in Pool A. Kisumu Day defeated Pasenga from Abadeas 2-1, while Green Palm of Mombasa recorded a 9-2 victory against Waberi of Garissa in a Pool B clash. Kisumu Day topped the pool on maximum 9 points, while Pasenga came in second on 6 points. In the girls category, Tar and Buteri of Nzoia region, St. John's, Kaloleni of Mombasa and Moi Girls, Cap Cherop of Nakuru all qualified to the semi-finals after making the cut. Hospital Hill, who won the volleyball title for the first time during the 2013 edition of the school games in Embu last year, will play Malava of Nzoia, while Cheptil clash with debutants Githinga of Abadeas in the boys volleyball semi-finals. Earlier in the day, Malava beat Githinga by 3-1 of 25-15, 25-17, 23-25 and 25-21. In the girls category, Kothanze, who topped Pool A with maximum 9 points, squared off against AIC Kosirai, who are the Pool B runners-up on 6 points. Victor Ogale, KTN Sports.
And to some football news now, Kenya Premier League defending champions Gor Mahia will use the Sekafa Club Championships in Kigali, Rwanda as a springboard to mount a serious defense to the Kenyan Premier League title. Kogalo jetted out of the country on Wednesday evening, hours after surrendering their KPL top spot to Brewers and former champions Tusker FC.
Baada ya kuwa nje ya dimba hili kwa
where, of course, the inaugural County Pension Fund Nairobi 10 kilometers Diamond Run will now be held on August 17th this year. A number of former elite athletes, among them marathon convert Eliud Kipchoge, will participate. The organizers announced early today that an electronic timing system will be in place.
It's a unique race whereby they recognize our own athletes. They recognize everybody. Nowadays, we don't want to go to hospitals. Our hospitals should be running, doing sports. And I want to call all companies to let their people do sports, to introduce sports.
You are among those who invest when the athletes are starting running. When they win, you celebrate more than coming in just to reward an achievement. And I think that is very important. Everybody who is going to run, whether you are a jogger, whether you are an elite athlete, whether you are international or local, you are going to be classified, you are going to be timed.
So we leave it at that tonight, but let's look at a big question tonight. We had asked you if you support the Senate move to withhold funds for Kisumu, Kiambu, Murang'a and Bomet counties.
Mixed reactions on that. Wonawino says, since I'm the employer, I think they need an answer from me, and the answer is no.
Atmakotengo says, freezing county funds doesn't hurt governors. They're already rich. It's the poor, including workers, who suffer.
Okolo Owaka says, why punish innocent citizens? Go for the governors instead.
Napisa Martin says, what is wrong with county executive members appearing before the Senate, just like cabinet ministers do?
And Bilagi Emmanuel says, no, Senate may be trying to blackmail governors, but wananchi are going to suffer because the governors will hinder the service delivery.
Kenyans will suffer if the stalemate between the governors and the senators continue. Let them face the senators.
Ezekiel Jill has a condition. If that fund withheld is not part of the county workers' salaries, then I support.
Kennedy Kirui says, yes, if governors have nothing to hide, prove or lose, why should they fear accountability?
John Ongwenyi, another one with similar opinion, misplaced aggression. He says Senate should release the funds and look for ways to deal with the governors.
Those are your opinions. Those are your tweets. And we thank you for writing in, for being part of KTN Prime. We leave it at that. I'm Linda Gutu. Have a good night.
And I'm Ben Kitili. Remember, after this, immediately after KTN Prime, there will be Jeff Koinange live. It is Thursday, day to be inspired. And Jeff will be talking to undoubtedly Kenya's most celebrated comedian, Daniel Ndamboki, aka Churchill. So be sure to catch JK live immediately after this. Good night from the KTN News Center.